So I've finally gotten around to a band who are categorically younger than me. Let's get some pre-debut stuff out of the way first. See, there's a ridiculously young pre-band they were in that argues we should hand more children instruments in studios. Their vibe is already in full focus with no missteps on the original material, just these imitative covers, including one of someone else's cover. It's notable that these choices emphasize the gimmick of being preteens, nursery rhymes, an appeal that literally can't last, that might have worked in the very moment but chose its fate for the long run. Other than that, the kids are alright. Considering how much of someone's early material can often be dismissed as embarrassing juvenilia or muttered early shyness, well, these literal juveniles burst through with full force. The album is proper punk, plus momentary curios that reveal more personality aspects. Whiffs of Americana plays it near against me, but mainly it's a musical manifestation of Lydia's voice. Not to undermine the instrumental work, simple but very effective, but it's all serving her sass. The EP is actually earlier with two better but Xeroxy covers and originals that match up and even show more range. You could collapse the two releases into one, by which I mostly mean just concatenate them, and it should be worthy of what I'm about to rank it against. As two pieces, they're two oddities that will provide foundation for their upcoming careers. And then we get to the content, and it leads off with this punk rock album that really hits the ground running. It's consciously retro, not for nostalgia's sake, but just honest influence. So they've got the harmonies of doo-wop and like the simple chordal structure of Motown girl groups, but it's expressing a very Gen Z fire. Yeah, I said Z. This is the first time there's been one of those post-Lana Del Rey vocalists with that very lazy diction that I'm actually into. I guess it proves that the diction itself wasn't necessarily the problem, maybe just whether or not they had something to say. And she's only a middling case of that diction. You can almost hear the letter R sometimes. It's stuffed with content. I admire the tenacity to start out with a 17-song album. I know in some contexts that might sound like a chore, but when it's punk rock, it just speeds past you and it's engaging throughout. Then quite a reliable idea for a follow-up, doing kind of the same, but committing to a concept and just rephrasing their sound a bit, so it's pleasingly same and pleasingly different too. With their retro vibe comes that somewhat compressed production, and that occasionally dominates the sound here. I wish people wouldn't do that. And this one quite hones in on the past of popular culture. I guess now popular culture is reaching its 70s, then back references like this are now part of the furniture, as well as what you're already willing to call retro. There's the sound of the Strokes on here. You notice that even outside of the song that had to credit the Strokes as part writers. I think that's somewhat overstated. A lot of songs sound like that, but it's that very reduced sound where the drums are machiney and all the strings in a chord sound in exact unison. It's another endearing suite of songs. It just doesn't really have the venom of this first one. And then a massive conscious pivot in their sound. That title sounds like it would be ironic. It's actually not, and that's for the better. They've gone to an overt contemporary pop sound, and I don't really know what contemporary pop sounds like. I would avoid it as much as I can. The closest reference point I have is because I'm sad and masochistic enough to keep up with Weezer, and when Weezer tried to do those pop songs where the chorus is just a kind of whooping melody and it's all shimmery synths and stuff, they were trying to do something that would sound as good as this. You know, hear the kids show how it's done. It's kind of awkward that the Regrets are so good at this, because I'd like to encourage them to play live instruments more and maintain that punk vibe. But by diversifying, they've really impressed. As long as it's just a brief avenue and they get back to their first sound, or they move on to the next sound, then it's earned its place just below the top.